Hello. I was asked first how I found this little gem of a town, Anacortes, and how I find like parking in general. Like, do I use the apps and stuff? So I thought I would just make a quick little video about that. First, I'll quickly tell you how I found Anacortes. It was just really a series of very fortunate events. I came up north to just escape the heat, and I was in the Olympic Peninsula, and I was like in the forest, and I really just kind of didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do. I knew I was just kind of coming up here, maybe to see some workouts, but I didn't really know where I was going. And so I was in the forest, and I had intended to just stay in the forest for a while. But then like 2 or 3 days in, I realized that I was out of coffee creamer. And I cannot start my day without hazelnut coffee. I don't even know why someone would ever ask me to do that. So I realized I got to pack up because I need me some creamer. And then so I just look at the map and I'm like, okay, I had come into the forest this way. There's like a way that I could just keep going to go out that way. I get to see some new stuff. And so I just took the different road to get out of the forest. And then when I got to the highway, I actually was trying to remember what caused me to go left instead of right, because there really isn't a heck of a lot. Like, I, not knowing, had no idea what Port Townsend was or any of this stuff was. And I didn't know, I just didn't know. And so I'm a little bit surprised, frankly. I was trying to remember, why did I decide to go left instead of right to get to a grocery store? But maybe it just looked closer on the map. I don't know. All I know is that I turned left and I drove into Port Townsend, and I fell in love like almost immediately. So I stay in Port Townsend for like a couple of weeks. And then while I'm there, I watched this video from Teo. My name is Teo. He used to be Winter is Blue, and he had taken a ferry. And I had been like considering taking the ferry from Port Townsend to Whidbey Island, but I was like nervous about it. It was like scary, the idea of getting on the ferry to me. I don't know why, but it was. But then I saw him do it, and he conquered, because he was a little nervous about it too, and he did it. So I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to do it. So I took the ferry from from Port Townsend to Whidbey, and I was just going to explore. I thought Port Townsend was going to be the best place I had ever seen. It really is still one of my very favorites, but I didn't actually understand that it gets even better. So I go to Whidbey, and I stayed in Oak Harbor for a couple of days. And again, I don't really remember what made me go, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. And so I just drove up and just went as far north as I could on the islands. And that brought me to Anacortes. And I don't know, like, I doubt highly, I never would have known this place existed. So it was just a very weird sort of set of lovely little decisions that I made that brought me to one of the most amazing places I've ever been. A lot of people think that I'm staying. I can't stay. The winter, I can't winter here. Unfortunately, there's just going to be entirely too many clouds, so I won't be able to keep my, electricity going. And, from what I understand, it actually snows here. I just found that out. I think it was Kristen. Kristen, hi. By the way, I met one of you guys. I met somebody. Kristen Stewart is part of our community. And no, it's not the Kristen Stewart, but it's an even better Kristen Stewart. Met her at the library. She was like, hey, man, are you? Anyway, that was so cool. It's the 4th time that's happened to me now. So that was just really, really, really neat. I love it every time it happens. So thank you so much for saying something to me, Kristen. And I'm pretty sure you're the one who told me that it snows here. So like, all the more reason why, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay. I'm probably going to just stay until the end of September, maybe. Anyways, so that's how I found Anacortes. My favorite place, definitely for van life, for sure. Nothing comes even close to topping summer in Anacortes for van life. Now, how I find parking, I don't use the apps hardly ever anymore. iOverlander used to be pretty convenient for that, but I had problems with iOverlander even before they shut down, or not shut down, but went to a paid model. I had already kind of like had misgivings about iOverlander, because on the one hand, it really, really, really helped me in the beginning when I just did not know anything about where to park or what to do. And so, it really did come through for me many, many times. But the trouble is, if everybody's going to the same spots, then those spots end up getting shut down because it's just too many people going there. So I had almost entirely stopped using that app before they went to a paid model. But now that they are, you have to pay to see anything, I don't use them at all. If I'm not going to be in the city, I will use freecampsites.net. That app is great for finding stuff out in the wild. But you can also just go on the map and look in the national forest, zoom in, find a forest road, FR, and then it'll have a number like Forest Road 220, Forest Road, whatever. Editing Birdie popping in to say that it doesn't necessarily have to be a Forest Service road. It might be named something else. But if it's a dirt road in the forest, national forest, you're probably good to go. And you're almost always going to be set. Just go on that dang road. And that's like great if you're just looking for something overnight. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time trying to find something. You can just go find yourself a forest road. You probably gonna be fine. If you are looking for like a long-term campsite and you want to try and find something that you might actually want to sit at, for a week or two, I would suggest freecampsites.net. It is indeed still free. Thank you very much. And it is great for finding stuff out there. But I tend to do the vast majority of my living in cities, really. I do love being out in the wild, but I really also do not like having no access to Wi-Fi. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but that isn't really the big thing. It's just like, listen, I'm a little bit obsessed with the news, y'all. And to go like 3 or 4 days without knowing what's happening in the world right now, that doesn't do very well in my brain. I don't like it. And then not being able to like check my comments and stuff. I know that sounds silly, but like, I want to know what y'all are saying to me. So I just don't do an awful lot of that out and about camping. I do most of my camping in the city. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is whatever municipality you're going to be in, go to Google and say, is it legal to sleep in my car in whatever town you're in, and see if you can find anything that says that it's illegal. Obviously, if it's illegal, don't do it. Go somewhere else if you can. But I'm assuming we're talking about folks that are moving around nomadly. Okay, so you got to make sure that it's legal. That's your first stop. That it's legal on public streets, because that's what I do. So what I do is I make sure that it's legal to sleep on the public street there. And then I go to the map, like Google Maps. And the first thing I'll look for is apartment complexes, because those are my favorite structures to sleep next to. Nobody ever looks at you twice. They figure, you're just there visiting somebody or whatever. It's typically a little less traffic, typically a little, quieter than some places. So I'll go to the map and then I'll use the street view to see if there is cars parked along the street by that apartment complex, and to try and gauge exactly how tilted that street is, because the streets will often tilt a little bit on the sides, I'm assuming for water runoff, which means that you are going to be a little bit tilted when you are sleeping. So that's the two things I look for: is are there cars parked on the side of the street, and how tilted does the street look? All right, so this is a lot. You don't want to be in the parking lot, the apartment complex parking lot. That's private and you will get in trouble, or at least there's a good chance you will. All right, here we go. So there's a complex and there is street parking next to it. And you can I'll go back a little bit and then see if I can see any street signs that say, don't park here. There's nothing like that, so this would work. It doesn't look too tilted. It's a little bit tilted, but not too bad. We got another apartment complex, street parking. I don't see any signs that say it's just for residents or anything. So that would work. And then I'll just keep looking for apartment complexes until I find one that has street parking that looks fairly level. Then I'll just go there, find myself a parking spot, and call it home. If I can't find an apartment complex, then I will look and see if the hospital has street parking. Okay, here we go again. There's the hospital. It's pretty tilted, but it would do if you had to. So you could park in front of the hospital here. Hospitals, you can sleep in their lots if you are super stealthy. People sleep in parking lots all the time, and hospital parking lots all of the time, because they're there to visit somebody or whatever. So as long as you're stealthy, you can, but it isn't my go-to because it's not technically something they love. And I will never do it unless there's just tons of parking and I'm definitely not going to be taking somebody else's spot, you know. But you can sleep in a hospital parking lot if you're super stealthy. It's fine. But I will prefer, if I can, to sleep on the street. If there is none of that, then I will usually try and find like this is all being done on the map. You know, I'm just sitting in the map, trying to find shade and then sitting and looking on the map. So if I can't find that, then I'm going to look for an industrial area and see if there is street parking there. And that is one of my least favorite places because it's usually loud and noisy and but if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. I just kind of go near, if you kind of go kind of where you think there might be the main street, and then look around, start looking at the business names that you're seeing and see if anything looks like it might be. See, like, okay, so here's the ferry. There's ferries are usually around somewhat industrial areas. So we'll just go, okay, there's ferry parking. I have heard that some people will park, you know, self-park in the ferry parking. I've never tried that, so I can't speak to it. I don't know. All right, here we go. Look, Trident Seafoods. That looks pretty freaking industrial, doesn't it? So then I hold and long press to see if I can get a street view. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, yeah, look. Well, okay, but I will not park in front of a house. I would park across the street from the house. So right over here would be fine. Because I'm not seeing any signs. It's in front of, you know, something commercial. So I will park across the street from a house, but I will not park right in front of a house because personally, if I lived in a house and somebody parked right in front of my house, I would think they were there to see me. And so it would like raise my attention, you know? So I just do not do that. But here there's stuff across the street there. So as long as you're not seeing signs and you're seeing other cars parked there, then you're probably pretty good, and try that. And then my very, very last, least favorite, if I can't find any of that, you are almost always going to find parking in the downtown area, as long as it's a place where it's legal to sleep. And a lot of those places will be like, you can only park here for 2 hours between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. or something. So you got to just make sure that you know, are up and out early enough. But a lot of downtown areas will have street parking that you can do overnight, but you know, always check your laws and stuff. If you're trying to find downtown, just put in downtown, and quite often you'll get something that's down, you know, you'll at least be able to figure out where downtown is in the city that you're in right now. Oh yeah, I've parked there before. Anyways, that'll at least give you an idea of where downtown is, and then you can just sort of, you know, drive around on the map until you find something that looks like, oh, okay, I could probably park there. You know what I mean? And that's what I do. So, you know, depending on the area, it can take a while to find. I've parked there too. Ha! Sometimes it can take a while. Sometimes you find something right away. But I just kind of like not using the apps because then we're not all going to the same place. And also because the apps want to charge me money now, and screw that. And yeah, that's all I do. I almost never use the apps unless I'm looking for a camping spot out in the wild where I might want to sit for a minute. So that is my personal method. Feel free to share your method in the comments if you want to help other people out, if you have some tips that I do not know about. I think the apps are becoming less and less useful, frankly, and I don't think I hate that, because I kind of think that the apps were a little bit counterproductive in that it was super, super, super helpful for new folks, which is great, but it kind of worked against the van life community as a whole, which is not. So, you know, do with that as you please. I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much for asking it. I love you all so much, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.